What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about altcoins today. Yes, altcoins, plural, the whole damn space of altcoins, ideally. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. It is the 19th day of March. In order to do this, we're going to be using the others chart, which is the total crypto market cap excluding the top 10. So it says it's really the top 125 coins excluding the top 10. So it's a composition of the top 125, basically 115 coins because we're excluding the top 10 by market cap. And typically, not always, but typically, if you're holding an altcoin that's in the top 120, 150, what this chart does on a monthly basis is what your coin has done, right? If this month this chart is saying that it's at a neutral stance, we're up like we're basically up 1%. I would imagine most altcoins this month are at a rather neutral stance. They're not down, they're not up too much, they're about 1% up. Now, of course, some of them will be up more, some of them will actually be down a little bit less, but more or less, this is the average. We're going to use this chart to try to determine when this next uptick happens, what the average expectation for growth across the space might be. I do expect that from here in this range that we've really established since late 2023, I do assume that we are going to find support. We are at the base of this range. After all, I do assume we're going to find support. Inevitably, I believe we will break out of this range. I think that we will go down. But we'll probably come up here, find a lower high, right? Whenever we found support here before, we had a higher high. We found support here before, we came up here. We found support here before, we came up here. I think this one's going to give us a weaker reaction, therefore setting the stage for this inevitable breakthrough that we will likely see at some point later this year. And I think it'll probably be in Q3, maybe late Q2, if not sometime in Q4 that we break out of this range. But I think it'll be probably late Q2 or Q3. Anyways, that's much forward in the future. Let's talk about the more immediate stuff. Okay, so again, hit that like button, subscribe. Let's get into it. Looking at the daily time frame here, you can see that we've definitely got, and I don't think the volume is going to really help us. We don't need the volume. It's just a distraction. I don't know how reliable that volume is, anyways. I mean, maybe it's completely dead accurate, but I don't know if I believe it. Looking at this here, we've got an established range from the beginning of February, low to high here. We had a little bit of a fake out, so we're pulling back, we're drawing back, but overall, very positive structure. What we're doing here is we found support at the golden ratio area once, twice, three times, and we prevailed. Now we're forming higher lows and higher highs. We're just coming down to do the same thing here, hopefully forming a higher low and this kind of trajectory, and I think that's exactly what we're doing. So overall, I think we are setting up to break out to the upside, and we should see some recovery here over the coming weeks and over the coming month of April. Looking at the RSI, we do have higher lows and higher highs here as well. Very bullish looking RSI. Rejecting the overbought zone is no fun, but typically when you reject the overbought zone, you do come down and find support at the 50 or even the 40. We can go lower and still be bullish, but I think it would look better to hold support somewhere in this area. Who cares what I think, but I think that it would just for the sake of this trajectory. Looking at the stochastics, we're also at the 50. This is a fine area to bounce. We've bounced here plenty of times, both as resistance and as support. So this is a fine area for the stochastics as well. And the MACD is crossing above the zero. If this sounds familiar, it's probably because any video that you watch that I've made, at least talking about these indicators, they're all basically doing the same thing here because the others chart reflects the average altcoin, right? Not all of them, but the average altcoin. This is a very bullish posturing with the MACD. It's a very bullish posturing with the stochastics and the RSI, so long as we don't go too much lower. We can afford to go a little bit lower, but we don't want to go too much lower. From a relative low here to a relative high, we're at the 0.5. Should I take this low? Here we're at the golden ratio. I don't know which one to take, honestly. I think this low would be more relevant because it's with this move here, right? The move didn't start back here. And I don't know. And we're at the golden ratio of this. So again, we don't want to go too much lower. I want to look at the 4-hour time frame real quick. I didn't think I was going to, but just seeing anything here. I mean, we're right at the zero with the 4-hour MACD. The stochastics are oversold, reset, ready to go. When we were overbought, we were at the high point. Makes sense that we're at a low point when we're oversold. RSI is oversold as well. And really, if we go back, to the beginning of February here, whenever we really established this range, every time that we've approached this oversold area, this has been at a low point in the market cap reading of the others chart. So I think that that's where we are now as well. Kind of in the heart of this range. People seem to be very, very bearish on the markets right now, whereas like 2 days ago they were very, very bullish. So Emotions are high. Emotions are telling. When we're very, very bullish, we're probably going to come down. When we're very, very bearish, we're probably going to go up. That's another thing that I'm running with there. We look at these drops, okay? Look at these drops overall. Don't they all seem to be about the same size, right? Drop here, right? Moved up. Maybe it was even like a drop and then a drop here. They all seem to be the same size, more or less, right? We're pretty much at that threshold there. We can go a little bit lower still, but probably not much is what I would expect. Go to the weekly time frame here, and this is where the fun starts, right? We've got a little bit of bullish divergence on the MACD, very beautiful bullish divergence there. The RSI hit the oversold zone, bounced, and has started to recover. It's in the process of recovering. The RSI itself is in a bit of a downtrend, lower lows and lower highs, but I think that we have a date with destiny to the upside here. I don't think that we'll break out of this range, but I do think that we'll probably find resistance either at the 50, at the 60, somewhere in between here, most likely. That's probably where we'll find resistance and then come back down for the crescendo of the bear market later this year. And the way that I have it drawn here, that would be like in November of this year going into January of next year even. I don't know if it'll take that long, but maybe. Just as a point of reference, it could take a while before altcoins really resolve themselves to the downside. But in the meantime, I do think we see some recovery. I think it's evident in the RSI, in the stochastics, and the MACD on the weekly time frame. I think it's evident from a price action perspective as well, finding support where we found support once, twice, 3 times, 4 times before, and even found resistance before back here, and support in this area as well. A semi-significant level for sure. I shouldn't even say semi-significant, a very significant level. We take this low to this high here. Kind of got toward the golden ratio zone, but not quite there. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't take that high because it's a fake out. Maybe I should take this high. I don't know. I'm not going to focus on that fib. The fib that I do want to focus on, hold on. The fib that I do want to focus on is either this high to this low or this high to this low. I'm going to take this high to this low first because I think this is more relevant for this move, right? This move didn't start back here, though that was the high. This move started back here. So high to low, we're at the 236. Should we move up, and I think we should see something that is probably at a minimum just above the 382, which would put us around a $200 billion market cap, $200 to $230 billion market cap. We could see anything from a 20% to a 30% pump, and I think this is a good minimum effect that we could see from here. So 20 to 30% pump across the board for the markets. I don't think this will happen in a week. It won't happen in a day. Maybe we start in a week. Maybe we start over the coming days, but we likely won't see a 20 to 30% increase until sometime in late April, maybe in May itself. It'll be a slow process maybe for a lot of coins at a minimum. The standard expectation that I'm going to have, the kind of more, not minimalistic, but probabilistic outcome. This is pretty probabilistic as well. It's not as exciting, but 20 to 30% is not nothing, at least, right? It is a lower high overall. It makes more sense to me that we'd actually take out this high because that would get people excited, even though overall we would still have a lower high, right? Just like here, when we took out this high, we were all really excited, but really overall this was just a lower high. The markets like to mess with you. It makes sense to me that just above this high might be where we find resistance, and that happens to be right in the golden ratio zone. So putting the probable target there at about 43% to 51% of 40 to 50% growth. I could really see this happening, and this is kind of what I'm leaning toward, is a 40 to 50% growth. Again, a bounce from this area we've bounced from, but a weaker bounce than we've seen overall. This weaker bounce sets the stage for an inevitable breakdown of this overall distributed phase here, okay? Something around $250 to $270 billion market cap, a 40 to 50% pump. And then on the extreme level, on the bullish case, we might see something on the lines of a 60 to 77% pump, okay? So 60, let's say 65 to 80% pump at the exuberant end of things, 40 to 50% pump on the likely end of things, and then on the conservative end, a 20 to 30% pump. Therefore, if you have reason to believe that you're holding a coin or analyzing a coin, looking at something, any kind of crypto that has the potential growth to grow more than, I would say, 50%, certainly more than 80% over the coming months, you've got a real winner there. You've got something that's special and it's shining in comparison to the rest of the market. So be on the lookout for those. Be weary of anybody who's making calls that are too far away from these percentage points, okay? Because likely most cryptos on average are not over the coming months going to see a multi 100% move. Some of them will. Some of them. I know that the whole market's beat up, but some of them are beat up a lot more than what the average coin is. So those ones might see a little bit more. There will be some coins that pump 3x, 10x over the coming months, right? Maybe not 10x. Who knows? It could be more. It could be less. But the probable outcome for the average altcoin is that we won't even see a 2x between now and the end of May. We're not going to move down in that time. We're probably going to move up, but it's going to be some relief. It'll be a relief rally, but it's not going to be an altcoin season. Okay, it'll be a little break before the real dump starts to happen. I don't really have anything else that I want to say. I just wanted to go over this with you guys because it's been a while since we looked at the other charts. So since we've looked at the other chart, I'm getting tongue-tied here. Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one, okay? Take care of yourselves. And yeah, get prepared. I think that we are going to see a little bit of recovery going into the month of April. If I'm right, if my expectations are correct, we should be breaking out of this range either in late May or probably sometime in June or July. That's when we should be breaking out. We'll likely top off. We'll find the high point. Draw it up a little bit higher. We'll find the high point either in late April or mid-May, somewhere in that range. That's my expectation. That expectation is subject to change, but for right now, that's what I'm running with. Just because we find the high doesn't mean that we dump down immediately. We were at the high points here for 3 weeks before we broke down. For 3 weeks, that's the better part of a month. We were at these high points here for months before we broke down, right? Here, we got up and then we moved down immediately. Here, we chilled for about 5 weeks before actually moving down. So typically, you don't just get up here and then reject, though that can happen. Typically, what we see instead is a prolonged period of exiting at the top, and that's what we'll be looking for, okay? Hit that like button, subscribe. Thank you all for being here. I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.